You know, those people from history we're told to admire, the ones with statues, school chapters, awards named after them? Well, turns out some of them weren't exactly model citizens. Today, we're peeling back the polished surface to reveal the cracks underneath. Let's talk about 10 legendary figures who changed the world, but might not have been all that great as people. Let's start with one of the most iconic inventors in history, Thomas Edison. Edison practically lived in a lab coat and is credited with inventing the light bulb, the phonograph, and even motion pictures. The man was an innovation machine. But Edison wasn't just competitive, he was ruthless. The kind of ruthless that didn't just win debates, it wrecked careers. His rivalry with Nikola Tesla wasn't just competitive, it was toxic. Tesla's alternating current outclassed Edison's direct current. But Edison, unwilling to be outshined, dug in and went to war. He launched a smear campaign, trying to scare the public into rejecting alternating current by publicly electrocuting animals, including an elephant named Topsy. Edison also had a bad habit of taking credit for inventions his employees created. Tesla worked for him, did groundbreaking work, and got little recognition. Edison, on the other hand, knew how to work the spotlight. So yeah, the lights are on, but that spotlight was carefully manipulated. Now, let's turn to a global symbol of compassion, Mother Teresa, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, a Catholic saint, and the face of charity worldwide. But behind the halo, the story gets murkier. Her clinics was called Homes for the Dying. These clinics were notoriously under-equipped, even though she raised millions in donations. Pain relief was rare, basic hygiene was lacking, and medical care was often missing. All this was present because she believed suffering brought people closer to God. In her own words, there is something beautiful in seeing the poor accept their lot, to suffer it like Christ's passion. She also accepted donations from dictators and convicted criminals. When questioned about it, she shrugged it off, saying the source of the money didn't matter. Imagine handing over blood money and being told, "Don't worry, it's for holy things." Let's jump to Silicon Valley. Steve Jobs, a genius and visionary. He created the iPhone, the Mac, and changed how we live, work, and take selfies. But as a person, he was far from easy to work with. Colleagues described him as cruel, manipulative, and erratic. He fired people mid-sentence, berated staff in meetings, and often took credit for their ideas. Even his personal life had glitches. When his daughter Lisa was born, he denied she was his, even after a paternity test. He claimed he was sterile, even though she was practically his clone. To be honest, he really changed the world. But for those who worked with him, he wasn't exactly the apple of anyone's eye. Now, let's talk about Albert Einstein, the lovable, wild-haired genius we all associate with quirky brilliance. But behind the equations, Einstein's personal life was complicated. He cheated on his first wife repeatedly, then gave her a list of strict rules to stay married. For example, you will not speak to me unless I ask you to, and you must leave my bedroom without protest. This sounds less like marriage and more like office protocol from a 19th century robot. Also, in his travel diaries, Einstein made deeply racist comments, especially about Chinese people, describing them in dehumanizing and offensive ways. He understood relativity, but apparently missed the basics of human decency. Now, to someone often painted as the ultimate peaceful protester, Mahatma Gandhi. He led India's independence movement with resilience and non-violence, but some of his views and behaviors were far from saintly. In South Africa, Gandhi made racist comments about Black Africans, calling them savages, and said that the Indians were superior. Then there were the so-called celibacy tests, where he slept naked next to young women, including his own grandniece, to test his self-control. He called it spiritual discipline. Most people would call it disturbing. He inspired millions, but his personal compass often pointed in troubling directions. Now let's visit the Magic Kingdom, Walt Disney. The name brings to mind castles, talking mice, and childhood wonder. But behind the curtain, things get darker. Disney was accused of anti-Semitism and associated with exclusionary groups. During the Red Scare, he even testified against his own animators, accusing them of being communists and helping blacklist them from the industry. Imagine Mickey Mouse dropping a dime to the FBI. That's the vibe. Walt was a storytelling genius, but even fairy tales have shadows. Let's move into the art world. Pablo Picasso, the father of Cubism, a revolutionary painter, and a creative force. But his relationships were messy and broken, like the art he was famous for. Picasso treated women as either muses or doormats, his words and not ours. 2 of his partners died by suicide, and several others suffered nervous breakdowns. His artistic brilliance is undeniable, but emotionally, he left devastation in his wake. Now let's talk about wartime hero Winston Churchill. He rallied Britain during World War II. His speeches are legendary. But Churchill also held deeply racist and colonialist views. He referred to Indians as a beastly people with a beastly religion. During the 1943 Bengal famine, which killed 3 million people, Churchill's policies worsened the crisis. And when asked about it, he blamed the victims, saying they were breeding like rabbits. To the Allies, he was a savior. To much of the colonized world, he was an oppressor. Now on to Henry Ford, the man who put the world on wheels. He revolutionized the car industry with the assembly line and made cars affordable for everyday people. But there's another side to his legacy that's often left out. Ford also published the Dearborn Independent, a newspaper that spread anti-Semitic conspiracy theories throughout the 1920s. It ran for years and reached hundreds of thousands of readers, pushing dangerous falsehoods about Jewish people. These writings were later compiled into a book called The International Jew, which became popular worldwide, including in Nazi Germany. Adolf Hitler even praised Ford in Mein Kampf, calling him an inspiration. So yes, Henry Ford changed the way we travel, but he also fueled hatred that echoed far beyond the factory floor. Finally, let's rewind to the 1500s, Martin Luther. Not Martin Luther King Jr., but the German monk who kickstarted the Protestant Reformation. He boldly challenged the Catholic Church's corruption, especially the selling of indulgences, payments for forgiveness, and sparked a religious revolution across Europe. His 95 Theses, nailed to a church door in 1517, became the foundation for Protestant Christianity. But later in life, Luther took a dark turn. He became aggressively anti-Semitic, writing hateful pamphlets that called for Jewish synagogues to be burned, homes to be destroyed, and rabbis to be banned from preaching. One of his most infamous writings was titled, On the Jews and Their Lies. His words weren't just hateful, they were dangerous. Centuries later, the Nazis used Luther's writings as part of their propaganda to justify anti-Jewish policy. So yes, Luther preached religious reform and freedom, but only for those who shared his beliefs. The others, he saw them as enemies. So what do we take from all this? Greatness doesn't always mean goodness. You can change the world, start revolutions, and still be deeply flawed. We're not here to cancel anyone, but we are here to understand them fully. Because when we only remember the sanitized version, we miss the real story. And honestly, the truth is way more interesting than the myth. If this gave your brain a little whiplash, hit that like button. It helps more than you know. And if you want more of this, hit the subscribe button. More surprising stories are on the way. See you in the next one. Bye.